Hi, good evening. My name is Bethany Goldzer, and I'm a college admissions consultant with Standout College Prep. So happy you're joining me this evening. Tonight, I'm going to go over how to evaluate your college application. So how this topic came about is I read an article yesterday that although many colleges have announced that the application cycles this year are test optional, students and parents are still making arrangements to take the exam, even if that means that they have to drive several hundred miles away in other states. Now, the reason why that's a little concerning is that there is a misalignment between what students think is going to happen in the admissions process and what the reality really is. So I'm going to go over a term called holistic admissions. It's something that you might have heard when colleges have announced that they're going test optional. They will say, we'll just look at applications holistically this year. That's the way that we'll get around looking at the SAT scores. So let's break that down tonight. What it means what is holistic admissions? We'll break that down first, and then I'll talk about factors that go into a holistic admissions review. And then we'll end with me doing a step-by-step walkthrough of a worksheet I shared where you can self-evaluate your application. You should never submit your application to a college until you've gone through it with a fine-tooth comb in the same way that a college admissions committee would go through your application. So let's jump right in. What is holistic admissions? Holistic admissions means that the college decision committee is not going to look at your application from just one lens or for one criteria. So for instance, they're not going to just look at your grades. They're not going to just look at your SAT scores or your ACT scores. They're not going to just look at how involved you are. They want to see the whole picture, who you are as a student, how motivated you are for college, are you likely to succeed at their university, and will you make a contribution to the community? Those are the things that they're looking for when they look at your application in a holistic admissions process. So just to give you an example of what that could mean, you can have two different students. One student has a 4.0 GPA, they're not very involved in school, versus another student who has, let's say, a 3.2 GPA. They're super involved in a lot of activities, and they come from an area of the country that where that college doesn't typically attract students from. So the latter student might be favored over the first student. So that's holistic admissions at work. Now, some of the factors that colleges are looking for when they go through holistic admissions are things such as, one, your academic achievements. So that does matter. So those are things like your grades, your test scores, where you rank in your class, the difficulty of the courses that you've taken. Have you taken advanced placement classes, honors classes, IB classes, and also how you're progressing in your curriculum. It's always better to show that you've improved as opposed to starting off strong and then declining. If that does happen, you certainly will need to explain that in the additional information section of your applications. The next thing that they're looking at is your extracurricular involvement. So how much do you participate in school and also outside of school activities? So these could be clubs, volunteer opportunities, it could be things at your church, anything that is that shows that you are involved outside of academics. That's what they'll be looking for. They'll also be looking for academic achievements and special recognitions. So these are accolades or awards or honors that you've received that show that you are awesome. You want to have that. It doesn't matter how big or small the achievement is, it's something that you want to highlight on your application. And then there are special circumstances. So this is a big one that you must have come out in your application somewhere if it's applicable to you. So these things range from if you have a special need, if you, such as an IEP or a 504 plan, If you are a low-income student, come from a single-parent household, if your cultural and racial and ethnic background, that's something that can matter in the admissions process. If you are a child of an immigrant, that could matter. So these are things that you want to highlight, but other things such as legacy. If you have a relative, a sibling, or a parent, or some other close family member who also attended the college, these are special circumstances that could give you favor in a holistic admissions process. Other factors will include definitely your essay. Now, you know, I talk a lot about the essay because the essay is definitely a heavy hitter in a holistic review process, because this is where you can actually make the argument for a lot of these things that we talked about earlier, like your involvement, your special circumstances. It's your story. This is the way that you can bring these things home. And it shows that you're a great writer. So you want to have a great essay. You have to have excellent recommendation letters. Your recommendation letters come from teachers who know you very well, and they further corroborate things that you self-report on your application. So you definitely want to make sure that you choose teachers who know you very well, and what they say is in alignment with things that you report, those qualitative things that you report. And then also teacher recommendations give color to your quantitative things on your application. So that's a really, really important one. Also, this is something that not a lot of people talk about, but I know that's really important, is that you show your readiness for your major, the intended major you indicate you want to pursue at the university, and a career. This is really important. That is what colleges are, they're in the business of, is preparing people not only to be lifelong learners, that's great, but it's so that you can get a career, so that you can get a job when you graduate. So you should show early on, even though you're a high school student, that you do have an aptitude. So if you say you want to be an engineering student, then I'm, as a college reviewer, I'm looking for evidence of that aptitude. Maybe you put together robots, maybe you have participated in various science fairs. You want to show an alignment between the classes and experiences that you've taken in high school and how that can connect to your intended major and career. And the best way to do that is a resume. So definitely make sure you have a resume and that you include it in your application, or you can send it directly to the admissions officer in an email. Okay, and another point that is important, and I have it as its own standalone thing that you should definitely highlight, make sure you're aware of, is geography. You should have a sense of where you are and how many kids are applying to that school from your high school, from your community, from your state. And because that really can impact your chances. If you're targeting schools that, let's say you're applying to schools in the Midwest, and you know you live in Massachusetts or New York, you live in the Northeast, and you know that they don't get as many kids from the Northeast, then you could be an asset. You can have an edge over the next person. So it's important that you are hyper aware of your assets that you are presenting in your college application. And so to help you do that, I did create a holistic admissions review workbook. And I want to go over that with you. I want to go through exactly how you would use that to self-assess your college application. And I'll talk a little bit about why that's important, but let me share my screen with you so you can see what this looks like. And also I'll tell you where you can access it. So when I was applying to the University of Chicago a long time ago, over a decade ago, I was really unsure on how I would fare in that process, because like I've said on previous occasions, I wasn't the top of my class. I was in the top 10%. My SAT scores were pretty average, but I was very involved in school. I was in tons of activities. I was a volunteer at a mental health hospital. I was an excellent writer. I won lots and lots of essay writing contests all over the country. I won one contest that gave me a trip, an all expense paid trip to New Mexico to deliver the speech in front of these really important politicians. So, I mean, listen, I was a good writer. And so knowing that and having this apprehension about how things would turn out with my application there, I became obsessive about cataloging why I should get in. I would make lists every single day almost, it seemed, just so that I could be sure. And I found that to be extremely helpful. And it gave me gave me a lot of confidence. And I strongly believe in good vibes, positive vibes. That if you send that out there into the universe, then it is going to return back to you in terms of an admission, if you truly are a good fit for that school. So I want you to download this holistic admissions review roadmap. What it is it's a way for you to self-evaluate your application. So just to go through this, the first page of this document, it's really short, it's 3 pages long. The first page just reiterates the factors that I went through, but I would want you to make a comment on your own self in terms of how you feel that you fare in these categories. So for example, if you were to fill out the academic achievement section, maybe you have a 3.5 GPA, maybe you rank in the top 10%, that. Maybe you didn't take the SAT, so you put no SAT. And then, you've had some, 5 AP classes. Okay, you'd fill those things in. You would move on to extracurricular involvement, and you would talk about the extracurricular activities that you've been involved in. And you can do it year by year. You can say what you did in 9th grade, what you did in 10th grade, what you did in 11th grade, and so on. In 12th grade, and so on. And you can edit this, so you can adjust it however you'd like to fit all your responses in. Your achievements, you put in all of your honors that you've received, who you received them from. Again, doesn't matter how big or small, you want to throw those in there. As many words as you can put into this worksheet as possible is great, because it's going to help you on the 3rd page, which is you giving yourself a numerical rank. This is exactly what admissions officers do when they're going through your application. They're taking the words that you've written in your applications, the numbers, all of that data, and they're putting it on these little cheat sheets, because this is going to be useful when they deliberate about your application and they give you a score to rank where you fall. Again, special circumstances, you would type those in. So those would be anything that really poses a challenge that you persisted through, or it could be something like legacy, which is a great thing for colleges. They look very positively if you have other family members who've attended. The next page continues on. It talks about the essay, so you could drop in your essay topic and how you feel your essay is reading. Do you feel like it's compelling and that it's interesting? For recommendation letters, you would comment on who's writing your letters, and do you feel like they have the writing capacity to really convey what it is that you wanted to convey in your applications. You'll talk about the readiness how ready you are for college. Also, something that's important to note for this is that you should take a look at the popularity of the major is at your college. If you're going to a school that is where you want to major in something that's very popular, and let's say you didn't perform the best in those types of classes to support you have an aptitude for that major, I strongly recommend that you omit that you want to major in that. I think that because that can in itself diminish your chances just a little bit. For instance, if you say that you want to go into engineering, but you've never earned higher than a B in a math or science class, then that is not going to reflect favorably on you. So keep that in mind. And that's what this type of worksheet does, is it makes you really process what your application is saying and what admissions officers are looking for. And then there's geography. So you want to take a look and see where you live and how, what the number of students are who are coming from your school, from your community, from your city. I've heard colleges say they do not admit more than 1 or 2 students from a high school. So it is important that you have that awareness of who else is applying, and if your college has also that type of policy. So once you get pages 1 and 2 completed, then my favorite part is the actual assessment part. So this is where you are going to rate yourself from 1 to 10. Remember, when you are rating yourself, first of all, you're amazing, okay? Hands down, you're amazing. But the point of this activity is to put on the lens of an admissions officer, knowing that they're trying to fill a class and they want it to look a certain way, how you feel that they would rate you, okay, based on your research and understanding of the college. So these are just all the categories that you had your notes from. So you would just go back to your notes and you'd say, okay, based on, you know, my scores and my SATs and my class, the difficulty of my classes, of the classes that I took, let me give myself a score for academic achievement. So you give yourself a score. And so, you know, let's say you give yourself an 8. So you would just update that to 8. Let's say for extracurricular involvement, you give yourself a 7. For special talent, you give yourself a 5. Special circumstances, you give yourself an 8. For essays, you're feeling good, you're enrolled in my essay writing class, so you give yourself an 8. Recommendation letters, 7, you're a little worried about one teacher, but you think it'll be all right. Career readiness, you give yourself a 5. And then geography, you know that you're applying somewhere where there aren't a lot of students applying there from your school, from your community, so you also give yourself an 8. And then you add these things up. So I have 15 plus 5 is 20, 28, 36 plus 7 is 43, plus 48 plus 56. All right, so I'm getting 56 out of 80 for this particular school. And then you make a comment. The comment is, okay, based on your score and admission chances, like so based on this score, what do you think your admission chances are in a holistic review? So I don't have my calculator, but let me just see what 56 divided by 80 is. Let me see what percentage that is. Okay, 70%. So I'm feeling, I'm feeling really good about 70%. I will take 70%. So there you have it. Listen, this is not a scientific process by any measures, but this is just mostly a confidence boosting or reality awareness type activity that is really helpful for you to go through. So there you have it. If you want to access this sheet, make sure you visit the link that I put in the comments. That's how you can get to the blog article where I go through exactly what I spoke about, and then also you can get access to the workbook. If you have any questions, definitely let me know. I'm happy to answer them for you. All right, I'm gonna log off now. Have a good night. Bye.